Hey everybody, Matt Williams Golf. Well, today I have something really exciting to do. I've got my first head-to-head battle. Actually, this is going to be head-to-head battle. This is going to be a three-way battle between three irons. The Titleist T200, the TaylorMade P770, and the Srixon ZX5. We're going to be hitting 7-iron with all three of these irons because, as you guys know, I am on the hunt my new iron set. Now, normally when I do my iron reviews, I do multiple clubs through the line. Well, for this head-to-head test and for the sake of time, we're just going to be comparing the 3 7-irons from these 3 clubs and see how they stack up against one another. Now, before we get into this, make sure if you haven't already to subscribe to my channel, smash that like button, leave me a comment below on what you think maybe you would choose between these 3 irons based on the results. But yeah, maybe during the course of this, we'll talk about some of the design differences between them. But I'm super excited. These have made my top 3 list. Now, don't get me wrong, folks. There are other great irons out there. The Mizuno JPX 921 Forged, the Callaway Apex. There's plenty of other irons out there that maybe I will still consider down the road, but I thought I would get started with the 3 of my favorites right now and do a head-to-head battle and see how they stack up. So let's dive into this. So I did a little bit of a random draw, and the iron that's going to be going first in this, I kind of wanted it to be middle or last because right now it is sort of my favorite, if you will, is the TaylorMade P770. Now, full disclosure, guys, I already have a little bit of inherent bias for the TaylorMade brand. I already play a TaylorMade driver, TaylorMade hybrids, TaylorMade irons. So I already have an admitted bias there. But so TaylorMade's kind of in the lead for me. But also, when I did my review of this iron, the results were just out of this world. Now, I won't be hitting the same shaft in each one of these irons. I'm going with the shaft that I think will give me kind of the best results. So for this, that said, full disclosure, when I finally get an iron, of course I'll be completely fitted for it, right? But right now I've got the KBS Tour 120s in a stiff shaft here. So let's start getting into the P770. Here we go. Right off the bat, I think that's pretty good. With my current TaylorMade RSI 2s, I average about 168 of carry. Now, with my TaylorMade RSI 2s, and one of the reasons that I'm looking for a new iron, aside from their age, is I want an iron that's going to give me more spin. I'm hoping to not sacrifice distance and increase spin. I don't know how many times I've had somebody on one of my videos comment that I should just play with a higher spinning ball, but that doesn't solve the problem with other clubs that I don't want to produce more spin with. So with my irons, I'm hoping to find something that'll produce more spin and not sacrifice distance. So that was a 163 carry on the first swing. Not the greatest, but not horrible, and it was dead straight. Wow, these, I'll tell you this feels amazing. I had forgotten how good the P770 feels. It feels terrific. That wasn't the best strike I've had, but it looks pretty good. But I'm only an 8 handicap, which means that I'm not necessarily the best ball striker in the world, right? So I am gonna have some misses. So certainly forgiveness is going to be one of the things that I'm examining. And that wasn't a very good swing, and yet it went really well. Dead pretty straight. Yeah, shot dispersion's real good here. I mean, and I'll tell you, so in a lot of the categories, feel, forgiveness, distance, spin, you know, lots of things I'm going to be looking at. You know, I think one thing worth mentioning for the sake of this video, not for an excuse, is I'm testing these in the worst of conditions. It is about 32 or 33 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is around 0 degrees Celsius for you international folks. The wind is blowing in just a touch. Earlier, in fact, a lot of things have been getting canceled today because there was freezing rain. Everything was snowing, or excuse me, was frozen. It doesn't look frozen in front of me right now, so the temperature might have picked up, but it's just barely above freezing right now. see that's going to be a little left, but it's really pretty straight. Wow, I love the feel. Absolutely love the feel of this. That is a good feeling iron. And I am loving this. Wow. Oh, that is my first one I've kind of blocked a little right. Wouldn't even say it cut or fade. I just kind of blocked it. Okay, so we're 8 swings in with the TaylorMade P770, 2 more to go. What's funny is I don't even know that I've swung this my best yet. That's what's funny. Just so you guys know, before I hit the last one on this, I'm loving this. It feels so good to me. It looks so good behind the ball. It feels good, it sounds good. It's not loud, it's not, I wouldn't call it quiet. I just love it. Now, some side notes, I forgot that maybe you haven't watched my previous review. This is a hollow body construction with a tungsten insert, so there's this visible little screw here on the toe of this. And otherwise, even though it's thicker on the sole and a little thicker on the toe, it looks pretty much like a blade. It looks like a player's iron. Yeah, I just absolutely love this P770. And the other thing I'll note is it's pretty traditional lofted. I can't remember, but I think the 7-iron with the P770, I'll look it up before I finish this video. I think it's 33 or 34 degrees, which is really weak, pretty weak lofted, but man, does it pack a punch. No, I don't know if I'd clip that one as good or not. Yeah, 182 carry, 198 total, 116 ball speed, 89 club head speed. That spin went down again, unfortunately, back down to 2,800 RPM, which is not great. Those are my 10 shots with the TaylorMade P770. The next one in the random drawing here is going to be the Titleist T200. Okay, so Titleist T200, 10 swings. Boy, with this mist and rain, it's kind of hard to really see if I smoked that or not. I don't think that I did. Yeah, but that's okay. That was a 167-yard carry. And as you recall, that's almost the exact yardage that I hit the P770 the first swing, right out the gates. It didn't go nearly as far. Now I just got my hand wet. Didn't go nearly as far as most of them in the bunch. So yeah, 3,300 spin. Not really anything good about that, to be honest, guys. That was 166 carry, 180 total, 3,300 spin. Just nothing real great about that. But that's the swinger. It's a little unfortunate to have that be a reflection of the iron. Oh, that is a really good golf swing, I think. Just a little description. This isn't about a full review. So what Titleist has done is they've got, this is not a forged iron, but it is a forged face. Sort of kind of thicker top line, but pretty comparable to the TaylorMade P770. I dare say that this might be just a tiny bit thicker than the P770. They've got that kind of a cavity back construction. The silicone polymer, I forget what it is, insert that is just almost in the center, almost just a little toe side. But this is a very techie club by Titleist standards, but it doesn't sound techie, doesn't feel techie, anything like that. It's got a great sound, great feel. Really enjoy this iron. So let's keep going. Oh, I blocked that way to the right. Way to the right. That was so bad. That's one of my worst swings I've had today. I think that's pretty solid though, but it needs to go. Come on. Oh man, the last two swings been real solid. Real solid. I don't know what I'm doing with my swing, because when I tested and did my full review of this, I had no problem getting around 5,500 to 6,000 RPM. And here, this is another 3,400. 181 carry. Interesting. Boy, that is just, you know, I was just thinking just now, part of the reason these spin numbers might not be that good is just, could be the cold temperatures, could be just the crappy range balls I'm hitting. 178 carry. 195 total. Pretty unbelievable. I would say right now, other than that one I just really blocked to the right, the dispersion on that Titleist might be a hair better than the TaylorMade. Wow. Ooh, that's pretty good. Oh. Uh-oh. Maybe it's not as good as I thought. Alrighty. Only in my videos, guys. Only in mine. You won't find that on any other reviewers' videos. They're way too professional to let something like that happen, but not me. Shot dispersion still pretty darn consistent. I'm excited to see these numbers when they're all done. Let's see if we can fly this over the ball guy. Or hit him. That was close. Last one. All right, last one for the Titleist T200. 176 carry, 187 total, 5,100 RPM, 121 ball speed, club head speed of 86 miles per hour. Now we get to move on to the Srixon ZX5. All right, last but certainly not least, Srixon ZX5. This one's got a little bit more offset than the other two irons and a little thicker top line. This probably leans more towards a game improvement iron. I wouldn't necessarily put in that category, but it leans more towards a game improvement iron than the other two. Now, I did a full review of the Srixon ZX5 irons, and in the review, I even said there's not a chance that this is a candidate to go in my bag. But as I thought more and more about it, I decided to give this more of a run and decided ultimately what the problem was with the Srixon ZX5. Well, it had nothing to do with the iron, but the shaft. It had the Nippon Modus, I forget which one, but the Nippon Modus shaft in it, and it is not the right shaft for me. So now I've gone and I've put a KBS Tour 120 stiff flex in this. And historically, the KBS Tour 120 has been a good shaft for me. So I'm really excited to see if, just by swapping out the shaft, if this performs a little better than it did when I did my full review. Now, the one thing I will say too is when I did the review of the Srixon ZX5, I said that this was the most consistent iron I've ever hit. It was so funny, when I was hitting 7 iron, guys, I hit 6 shots in a row of all the exact same characteristics. Carry, distance, spin, ball speed, 6 shots in a row that all landed on the exact spot. and it was really funny. I was just having a whole big laugh over it. Even though it wasn't carrying as far as I wanted, I was cracking up because in all my reviews, I've never had 6 shots in a row that are literally carbon copies of one another. So be interesting to see where this starts out. All right, here we go. Well, that first one got away from me. Not only was it a bit of a draw and pull, just got to get used to that offset, but it was short. It was only 164 yards to carry. But again, in fairness, both on the P770 and on the T200, my very first one was relatively short too. So let's see. The other two both got better with more swings. Let's see if this does the same. Hold it again. Should stay in. Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a weird swing. I won't lie, that didn't feel like my best swing. Felt a little off balance on that. So something I should have been mentioning before is degree of loft. I think I did mention on the P770. The P770 is 33 degrees, which is fairly traditional now. It's kind of the new traditional, 33, 34 degrees. Now for the Titleist T200, that's relatively strong lofted, that's 30 degrees. And for the Srixon ZX5, which I'm still in the midst of hitting right now, is 31 degrees. So they all are a little bit different, just a little bit, with the T200 being the most strong lofted, the P770 being the weakest, and this one, the Srixon landing in the middle. So let's keep hitting Srixon though. It's just shorter. It's just shorter. I'm rooting for this Srixon. That's going to factor into the conversation. Remember, feel, overall distance, carry distance, spin rate, apex, right? Looks even. Okay then. But spin is a factor, and this thing is crushing the other two in spin. Yeah, kind of left that one a little bit right. It's going to be way off on the shot dispersion. Just not striking the Srixon as well. And you know, it's funny. It's just the little guy that could. I'm rooting for him. He's my Rudy of the 7 irons of the irons, the Srixon ZX5. You know, it's funny because when Srixon designed this, they just are saying this is going to be powerful. It's going to be just everything. I will say, I think it's worth noting, Srixon just came out with the ZX4, which is a hollow body. In fact, all the research I do sure makes it seem a lot like the TaylorMade P770. So once I do a full test and review of the ZX4, we could determine that maybe that might be a more appropriate one to compare to the 770. Because right now this just isn't quite keeping up. That wind's just blowing in. I can feel it right now. All the flags are blowing right at me. Tough conditions right now, and it picked up since I've started this test. So the Srixon could be at a disadvantage. This video might be backfiring. Weather is maybe shooting me in the foot again, because that was 161 carry. I thought that was a good ball strike. 6,200 RPM, 161 carry. And then my club fitter that's working with me, a good friend of mine here named Raymond, which if you call Fiddler's Green, call and ask for Raymond. He told me that it just got a notification on his phone that it's about to start snowing, and it feels pretty cold out here. Yeah, I really can't strike it any better than that. That might be the best swing I've even given the Srixon. Oh, it's short. I think it's short. I can't hit the Srixon ZX5 any better than that. That's all I can give you, Srixon. That's not gonna do it, I don't think. I just don't think that's gonna do it. That's too bad. That is too bad. Okay, well, let's summarize this. I'm gonna try something I never do in my reviews. I'm gonna try and bring my phone and either grab some screenshots or just video myself looking at it here as we go over some numbers and summarize these 3 irons. All right, well, what an interesting test. Before we start getting into the numbers and diving into those, and I'm gonna experiment in this video to see how that goes, let's start with looks. And I'll just kind of, boy, I've never done it this way. So for the looks category right now, I can tell you what checks the box for me the best is the TaylorMade P770. It's not a blade by any means, folks, so don't think that I'm calling that. I'm just saying it has the clean, polished, simple looks of a blade. I think the P770 is absolutely stunning. Then in the looks category, I would say the Srixon ZX5 is the next best looking one. Again, pretty much all polished, a little satin finish on there. I love these kind of clean lines on there. I just think that in the bag or in your hand, that's a really great looking iron. And then in third place is the Titleist T200. Now, if you went back and watched my full review of the Titleist T200, the one thing I will say is I said that this was an even better looking than the Titleist T100, just in terms of appearance. Okay, not in performance or how it sits at address behind the ball, just in terms of how it looks in your hand or in the bag. I think this is a great looking iron, so that says a lot. Looks category out of the, I would say, the P770. Now, again, just kind of going through kind of some looks on the 7 iron and above, or the mid irons, and when you start getting into your long irons, they have that speed slot. That's something TaylorMade's been doing for a little while to kind of give a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more forgiveness on those low hit strikes. You've got your tungsten, the little screw here, and I always thought that when I saw the pictures of that, I thought that when I saw the iron in person that I wouldn't like that little screw in the toe, but it's not bad at all. In the Srixon, there's really not a lot going on. You can see just barely on this edge where the tungsten is inserted into the toe and low section. Some of the other clubs, it's kind of got this notch out in the heel, and then in the sole, it's got what's called the V-sole, which helps you, they say by design, get through different types of lies, different types of grass. So that's the Srixon. And the Titleist, not a lot to report here. All you see is the obvious tech. Now there's more tech built into this than that, is the kind of silicone or polymer, I forget what it is, Impact Max, whatever button here, kind of on the back, center to toe side. The one thing I will say is when you look at anything that says Titleist, that kind of resonates with me as a quality iron. So that gives it a little bit, you know, this is the only one that says Titleist on it. But, so in the looks category, that's how I feel. In the tech category, that sounds pretty self-explanatory. Let's go ahead, I'm gonna bring the camera over and see if we can start diving into these numbers together. Okay, well, this is pretty low quality compared to some of the major club reviewers out there, but it's the best that I can do. So these are the shot dispersion rings, and I'm just gonna show you carry here. Now the purple represents the Srixon ZX5, the yellow represents the Titleist T200, and the whites there represent the TaylorMade P770. So when we look at these dispersion rings, the tightest right to left dispersion ring is the TaylorMade, and the tightest overall dispersion ring is probably the T200. Notice with the Srixon ZX5 that those start to fan out quite a bit more right to left. Now the one thing I'll tell you guys is I don't want you to envision that that's the center line, because I didn't know where the trackman was. I started this test, I didn't know where the trackman was aligned. So I would say this is center line. And so you can see that a lot of my Titleists were right on center. In fact, let's select the Titleist here, the flashing ones. So except for this one I lost way over here to the right, look at that kind of right to left dispersion line, especially if you imagine that that's kind of the center line there. That right to left dispersion for the Titleist T200 is certainly the best out of the bunch. Again, let's click on the TaylorMade. Again, sticking with that same kind of center line, little bit more scattered dispersion there. And then with the Srixon, again, sticking kind of with that same one. We're way off to the right and a couple to the left. Most of them were cutting or fading, so a lot more just to the right. Now that said, if I was aiming these all at a green, I think these all find the green mostly. Definitely got some flyers, which we'll look at the distance numbers here in just a second. So this here shows the ball flight of all three. Again, the white is the P770, the purple is the Srixon, and the yellow is the Titleist T200. So again, you know, if this is center line, I didn't know where the tracking was aligned, so I think you get a better sense of where I thought center line was as I was doing this test. And everything looks exactly as I thought here when you look at these ball flights here. The Srixon right to left, the worst dispersion, if this is center. Look at that grouping of yellow, just all right in there for the Titleist T200. And then just a little bit more of a wider dispersion, certainly not bad by any means, but just a little wider dispersion for the TaylorMade P770. Looking at this again now, right now I've got the white, so that's the TaylorMade P770. Just kind of thinking about, again, if this was my center line, okay, I know this registers as a center line, but I couldn't visually see that, so I was kind of oriented more here. So I'm envisioning that I had one really just dialed dead center shot. That's kind of my dispersion ring here as we look at that. Now, in terms of the overall arching ball flight, believe it or not, the TaylorMade P770 was the highest apex, average apex here of all of the irons that we tested today, and has a bit better fall flight. In fact, for just a second here, I'll go ahead and now bring up the the Titleist T200 and watch the difference. Notice that goes down a little bit. Again, the TaylorMade P770 and then the Titleist T200. So also, if we kind of go back and forth with this, a little bit more dispersion on that apex or that ball flight, little tighter dispersion on that Titleist T200. And now that we go down here, except for that one errant one that went way off to the right, look at that dispersion of that ball flight for the Titleist T200. Again, here's the TaylorMade P770, Titleist T200, except for the one errant one. Wow, that is consistency. Now let's go ahead and look at the Srixon ZX5. Okay, so a little bit higher than the T200. Again, here's the T200. Yeah, I'd say just a little bit higher for the Srixon, more consistently. But look at that dispersion, folks. Quite a bit. That is the worst dispersion of the bunch, which is very, very interesting. Now let's look at the numbers just all stacked up to one another. So in terms of the overall numbers, kind of coming in third place here, the Srixon ZX5, average club head speed 86 miles an hour, ball speed 115, average spin rate 5,200 RPM, average height 84. But let's focus on this carry number there, 165. I'm going to call that 165 yard average carry with 175 yard total. And you guys can just ignore these attack angles. Just ignore that. We're working on it. Just ignore all that. All right. Now when we go to the Titleist T200, okay? Club head speed 87 now. So what was it for the Srixon? Yeah. So the club speed 87, ball speed 116. I think that's about a mile. Yeah, just a mile an hour faster. Oh, that spin rate's just disgusting. Average height of 82 feet. That's lower than I'd really like to be. So folks, when you think about that landing angle of 41 degrees and that spin rate of 3,700, that's not a recipe to hold a lot of greens. Now, On carry distance though, 175 yards of carry, 188 total. That's very good, very, very good. So let's now look at the TaylorMade. So now looking at the TaylorMade clubhead speed 87, that's faster than the Titleist, and that's a lot faster than the Srixon. Ball speed 117, that is again faster than the Titleist, faster than the Srixon. Spin rate of 4100, not good, but also when I did my review, worth noting, I got much better spin when I did my review. 85-foot apex on average, and then carry 175, total 187. Again, just ignore attack angle, face angle, ignore all that for a second. Now, landing angle, 43 degrees. That's certainly better than the Titleist at 41 degrees. Now, it's not quite as good as the 44.5 for the Srixon, but for the TaylorMade to be at around 43 degrees, I'd love to get that a little bit better. Love to get that a little bit better. With these numbers, with these ball flights, with this dispersion, which one kind of wins the test for me? Let's talk about that here next as we summarize this battle here. Well, we've got the 3 irons. We've talked about the looks. We have talked about and looked at the performance and compared those side by side. Let's just talk about a couple of other things. First, let's talk about feel. I would say if I were to rank these in terms of feel, that number 1 in the feel box would be the TaylorMade P770. Number 2 would be the Srixon ZX5. And number 3 in feel would be the Titleist T200. Now, that's not to say that any of these feel bad at all. They're all exceptional in the feel category, but if I were to rank them, it would be TaylorMade 1, Srixon 2, and Titleist 3. The Titleist was just a little more hard and clicky than the other two, whereas the other two just felt a little bit more buttery, a little softer feel, just a little bit smoother, right? Okay, so what's another box that we should be looking at? Well, it's gotta be price. Let's start with the TaylorMade P770. The P770 in the United States right now floats around $1,250 to $1,300 US. And for Canadian dollars, that's gonna be around $1,600 Canadian, I believe. Maybe even pushing $1,650 in Canada. And then in England, for my Great Britain following, in pounds, I believe that's gonna be around 900 to 950 pounds. So fairly expensive iron. Now, the Titleist T200 is actually a little bit more expensive than that. The Titleist T200 in United States dollars floats at around $1,350, $1,350. So for Canada, that's at least $1,650 Canadian dollars, maybe even pushing $1,700 in Canada. And in pounds, at least 950 to even 1,000 pounds for a set of Titleist T200. However, the Srixon ZX5 in US dollars is only around, I believe, $950 US, maybe almost $1,000 US. And for Canada, oh, what's that gonna be? That's probably gonna put it more in the line of $1,400 to $1,400 Canadian, maybe even $1,350 to $1,400 Canadian. And for pounds, oh, I didn't convert this in my head. For pounds, that's gotta be what, around, as I drop the iron. Getting back to being serious here for a second. Pounds, if the other are around 950, I don't know, this has got to be what, 750 pound, somewhere right in that range there. So the Srixon then becomes the best, certainly value, the lowest price point iron. Now that said, for me, and possibly for a lot of you, despite this being a more affordable iron and still a very, very quality iron, and I mean very quality, the Srixon I'm going to go ahead and set down because despite the cheaper price, the overall performance just did not match or compete well, to me, with the TaylorMade P770 and the Titleist T200. So, goodbye Srixon ZX5, we're going to whittle you out here real quick. But you were a really good iron. All right, so that takes us down to the TaylorMade P770 and the Titleist T200. We've talked about how they feel. This feels better. I think this looks better. Price point is a little bit cheaper, but the price is so negligible. You know, price is really not going to be a factor when you're shopping and comparing these two irons. The dispersion was maybe a tiny bit better with the Titleist T200, but the rest of all the other swing characteristics and ball flight, descent angle, spin, apex, total distance, overall, by and large, the overall winner for me was the TaylorMade P770. Now, we got to acknowledge what I did acknowledge for full transparency at the beginning of this video. I came into this with a little bit of bias for the P770. I think I've remained totally objective in this process, but a little bit of bias because I am a bit of a TaylorMade fan. Now, that's not to say I'm not a Titleist fan. Heck, I play a Titleist golf ball. I've got a Titleist putter. I'm a huge Titleist fan. You know, it just screams quality to me. It screams just almost luxury to me. You know, I just love the Titleist brand, but folks, the TaylorMade P770, I think right now is the clear winner. The narrow winner. Now we're going to do some other head-to-head battles. I'm excited for the Srixon ZX5 when it comes out. It'd be interesting to see if it competes a little bit better with these two clubs. But by and large, right now, folks, the winner of the day is the TaylorMade P770. Now we'll compare it to other irons, for instance, the Mizuno JPX 921 Forged, or perhaps a PXG if I can get my hands on it again, other than with a PXG rep. The new Callaway Apex. The Callaway Apex is one we'll probably have to compare this to for sure. But right now, the leader in the clubhouse is the TaylorMade P770 with the Titleist T200 right behind. But for this contest, this head-to-head battle, for me, if you're asking me in terms of for the money and the overall swing characteristics from a very average 8 handicap perspective, the TaylorMade P770 is going to be the winner today. So give it up for the TaylorMade P770. All right, folks, well, that ends up wrapping up this video. Congratulations to the TaylorMade P770 for winning this heated battle between three really great irons. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, even though this P770 is a winner, you could have put any one of these in my bag and I would have gamed them and had a really good time and had a lot of fun with them. But if you are forcing me to make a choice, it's going to be the TaylorMade P770. With it being the first time that I've ever done a head-to-head battle, I really sure hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure, if you haven't already, to smash that like button, that little thumbs up button, and leave me a comment below on your thoughts. If you game any of these irons, I'd love to hear them. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those questions in the comment section, because I do my very best to answer all the questions that I get from my followers. Folks, if you haven't by now, click subscribe. Make sure you hammer that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications. I'm enjoying doing this. I hope this brought value to you. Remember, folks, I'm not a professional golfer by any means, nor do I profess to be, but hopefully for a lot of you low to mid to high handicappers and more average golfers that are floating around out there, hopefully this feedback that I do on all this golf equipment is something that really resonates for you. I enjoyed this head-to-head battle. Right now, I'm getting more and more excited to buy me a set of the TaylorMade P770s, but we'll do more head-to-head battles with a couple other brands, namely Mizuno and Callaway, and see if it continues to be the winner or if something else surpasses it. We'll see. Until we do the next video, folks, I had a great time. I hope you had a great time. We'll see you on the next one.